Imagine a summer night in a rural Indian village where the temperature simply refuses to drop. The air remains thick with dust long after sunset, and the heat feels physically suffocating. For laborers like Raghav, Hari, and Gopal, daily life is already an exhaustion of manual labor. They return from the fields to small, unventilated brick homes that trap the daytime sun, baking the interior air until the rooms become literal furnaces by midnight. They face a brutal choice. They can stay indoors and risk heat stroke, or they can drag their wooden cots outside to catch the night breeze. The problem is, the village elders warn that the open darkness is haunted by a wandering Chudail, a witch looking for vulnerable prey. For the extremely poor, folklore and basic human survival are forced into direct conflict. You have to weigh the abstract dread of a ghost against the immediate physical agony of a heat wave. Driven entirely by a need to breathe, the three men dismiss the warnings. They pull their cots past the threshold of their homes and set them up under the open sky, trading absolute safety for a slight drop in temperature. Around midnight, Raghav wakes up. He wanders away from the beds and spots a dark, unnerving figure standing completely motionless in the faint moonlight. Panic sets in, and the men barely make it back inside the sweltering walls of Hari's house. By morning, the terror of the night and the relentless heat of the day force a new plan. Between the three of them, they pull their entire life savings, exactly 550 rupees, and decide to walk to a neighboring village to buy a cheap table fan. Economic desperation acts as the primary driver of this tragedy. Without it, the three men would never have left their homes or navigated a dangerous forest right before dusk to secure a basic human comfort. They successfully haggle for a heavy metal table fan.
It represents total salvation from heat, but the sun is already setting, and they have to carry this heavy piece of machinery back through the isolated jungle path. This chart tracks the men's journey back. As we plot the distance traveled along the bottom axis, you can see Gopal, carrying the fan on his head, start to experience an unnatural spike in physical load on the vertical axis. With every step, the metal box inexplicably gains mass. Raghav looks back to see why Gopal is struggling. Perched directly on top of the fan is a dark, hazy entity staring back at them. The very machine they bought to save themselves from the heat is now physically anchoring them to the witch. Their desperate investment has become a literal burden pulling them into the dark. The witch suddenly appears directly in front of them, blocking the narrow, dense path. She demands they leave the fan in the woods so she can cool her own unnatural heat. When they refuse and try to run, she locks them into a geographic trap. No matter how fast they sprint through the trees, the path keeps looping back on itself. The brush feels completely impenetrable. In the blind panic, Gopal's foot wedges tightly into a thick cluster of roots. He screams for help, but Hari and Raghav are entirely consumed by the instinct to survive. They don't turn around. They leave him to the shadows. The extreme stress of supernatural terror systematically dismantled their sense of brotherhood. In the end, the instinct for self-preservation completely overrode their years of loyalty. The next morning, the village is dead silent. Guilt finally cuts through the adrenaline as Hari and Raghav slowly unlatch Hari's front door to step outside. Lying motionless on the dirt, right outside the threshold, is Gopal. He is dead, with deep, dark strangulation marks bruised into his neck. Placed perfectly upright, sitting untouched right next to his lifeless body, is the brand new table fan. By returning the machine to the village, the witch turned a simple appliance into a permanent psychological weapon used to mock the survivors. Rural folklore highlights how supernatural threats capitalize on the specific vulnerabilities of poverty. These entities wait for the pursuit of basic survival to deliver the desperate into their reach.